Steven Milhausen here, SportingNews.com. We're in a beautiful hotel, the Thompson Hotel here in Chicago. We're talking to the reigning, defending UFC and middleweight champion of the world, Robert Whittaker, as he will be defending his title on June 9th against Yoel Romero at the United Center here in Chicago. Rob, I'm sorry for the snow, man. You're coming from Australia to Brooklyn, and now you're coming here to Chicago. So we do apologize for the snow, my friend.
Forgive you. The snow was unexpected. We don't get snow in Australia or Sydney, where I'm from. So I was ill-equipped. I do not have the gear for it.
So you have no hooded sweatshirt, no coat, no hat, no gloves.
No, I'm staying in the hotel today.
I was gonna say stay here as much as possible. And how cold does it get in Australia?
Well, it depends which parts you're in, but where I'm from, you won't get it under 3 degrees.
I'm very jealous of that.
Right, that's like death winter. Like, we're about to call off the day. It's that cold.
Now, do you get snow at all, or is this completely foreign to you?
Never. It gets hot, but in Sydney, like, it gets real hot.
You know, a lot of people have been wondering about your health, and we'll start with that. Just with everything that happened, you didn't fight in Australia in February. How are you feeling right now as we inch closer to June 9th?
I'm 100%. This is probably the best I've been, to be fair. Like, this far out from the fight, this is the best I've been. Health-wise, it's not even a concern. Injury-wise, I'm fresh as a daisy. It's I really have had like a solid bit of training now behind me, and like we're still 8 weeks out, and I've got a lot of time ahead of me still.
Now, how soon did you start training after everything that happened surrounding what happened in February? How soon after were you able to get back into camp?
So like roughly after fight week was when I was starting to get things together. Like, because I think I had just gotten over the chickenpox at that point. So I was just putting things together. I just had the birth of my daughter and getting things back on track, like a rehab program to get back into training, rehab to get you back into it.
Talking when you said you just had a daughter, how does that feel to be a dad? Because I know, I was just talking to some people, being a dad's the greatest thing in the world, at least I know in my mind. How has that process been for you, and what is it like to have a child? Yeah,
it's unreal. This is my 3rd child. So yeah, it gets noisy, it gets busy. Like, I think I need a panic room sometimes. I don't know how my wife does it 24/7. Like, there are some moments I wake up in the night and all 3 kids are crying.
Oh no!
And I just think to myself, I've done messed up. Like, I've made a mistake somewhere. But no, they're the best thing in the world. They really are. They brighten up every single day.
Now, for the fathers out there, a lot more. You see a lot more fighters talking about their kids and everything. How do you just being at home? How do you find that balance between being in the training, getting ready for a fight, and then having that time with your family?
It's hard. It's like realistically, there isn't a shift. A lot of people say that the fighter and the fight game and the fight world is separate to family life and home life. I'm the same person, and how I am in my family life directly impacts my fight life, and vice versa. So I'm the same dude all the way through. There's just a moment in time when I know now it's time to switch on. Like when I'm in my sessions, I know I can't be thinking about anything else, so I think, well, I'm here. It's all about living in the moment, being in the moment, having that presence of mind sort of stuff.
How old are your 2 oldest kids?
My 2 oldest is going on 3 and just turned 1.
What do they think? Because I know when I go travel to cover UFC shows or boxing shows, my son's 20 months old. He doesn't get it, but he gets sad when I leave. Is that same experience for you? Like, they know you're leaving. Maybe they don't fully understand, but it does affect them when you do leave.
Yeah, definitely. Like, they cry, and when I'm away for longer than a day or so, they start to feel it. Like, they muck up with my wife a bit more. They break their normal routines a little bit, but yeah, they've gotten a little bit used to it because they know I always come back, and they're easy to bribe.
I'm gonna write that down when we're done and how to bribe them. But you look at the injuries and everything that happened at one time. You don't really hear that with not even just a fighter, but an individual in general. What was that process like of one thing after another and all built up to one time to where you ended up having to bow out of the fight?
Yeah, it was like I was gutted, to be honest. Like, I was absolutely very distraught from that. Because the whole thing is, like, I'm no stranger to injury. Like, I've gone into fights, into fight preps, into fight camps, injured. and I've gone through fights injured. I've been injured in the fight and gone into a fight injured, and I've never pulled out from a fight. And for me to reach a point where there was nothing I could work around, there wasn't even a chance for me like I can work this out, I can work around it, I can do X, Y, and Z. Nah, my body just said, we're good, dude. Like, we're done. And then the doctors and my coaching staff were the ones that sat me down and go, there is zero chance you can fight. There's no way. The doctors said, I medically cannot sign you off on this.
What was that reaction like when your team is your team, they're looking out for the best interest of your health, but when you go to the doctors and the doctors tell you, we're not going to clear you to fight? What runs through your mind when that happens, considering the significance of that card?
Yeah, there's two emotions. There's one that's like, I'm absolutely devastated. Like, it's the backlash is gonna be huge. Me having the headline, having to pull out of the card in Australia, defending his belt in Perth, first time in Perth. There's gonna be a lot of backlash, and I said, you get worried about all that sort of stuff. But the second part though, which nullifies that a bit, is relief. Because deep inside of me, I knew there was no way I could fight this fight. Like, I was absolutely bedridden. I couldn't train. I couldn't do anything. I was sick as a dog. And yeah, you know, it's funny.
How long did it take to just get over that disappointment?
Like it was on running. It kept going all the way until after the fights, because the whole time I'm watching the fights, even I'm thinking like, man, I should have been there. It should have been my fight. Should have been my card. You know, I should have been getting paid that day. But instead, you know, I'm on the sideline. Yeah, you know, it wasn't until I have a great support network around me though. Like my family, my kids, and my training team, coaching staff, friends. They're all around me. You know, they're there with me, whether or not I win or lose, fight or not.
What was the reaction at home, just among your countrymen? Like, what were the comments and the feedback you did receive in terms of when the news did come out that the fight wasn't going to be happening?
Yeah, there was a lot of support. They're like, just get well, worry about your health, and I appreciated all of that. Also, the few dudes that were like, yeah, you're a pussy. I was like, that gutted me. I was like, come on, guy. I haven't skipped a fight anyway. I've fought the most dangerous dudes in the division, but it is what it is. You know, you can't please everyone. I knew I couldn't fight. The doctors said I couldn't fight. There's no way. I had an abscess infection that got out of hand, and then I got chickenpox.
You know, I remember hearing the chickenpox, and I'm like, I remember getting the chickenpox when I was like 6 years old.
Yeah.
You know, it's really, and my wife's a nurse, and we were talking about that, and she's like, you know, it's very uncommon for adults, especially at your age, to be getting a sickness like that because it's more reserved for children. What was that like? Where you're like, how the heck do I get the chickenpox and I'm this age? It's a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
A little strange, I would say.
Yeah, I thought it was a piss take at first, because like, when I first started seeing the little red dots on me, I was like, surely I can't be getting the chickenpox, because this was just after the infection. So I was like, surely I can't be. But then your wife would have told you that chickenpox in adults is pretty severe.
Yeah.
And it got worse real bad. And yeah, it was much worse than the infection. It was the worst thing I've ever had.
You know, you look at, and then the card happens, and then the UFC, you know, they finally, you know, Yoel does replace you to face Luke, and you know, the worst thing, you know, they say a fighter can do is miss weight. So when you're hearing and you're watching, so seeing Yoel miss weight by how much he did, what's going on in your mind at that point?
There's nothing on Yoel, but it's very. I think as an athlete and as a mixed martial artist, half your job is to make weight. I don't know. That's my opinion on the whole matter.
You know, you look at that, and he did get a lot of backlash for that, and he ended up winning the fight, and he finished Luke. Were you surprised he finished the fight? Because talking to a lot of fans, they were like, well, of course, the fighter who weighs the most, comes in overweight more often than not, does win the fight. So did that surprise you at all that Yoel was able to finish off Luke?
It doesn't surprise me, because Yoel on the best of days has knockout power, but. And I don't want to talk too much about it, to be honest, because I think Yoel's a great athlete. Like, he's a phenomenal athlete. So is Luke. But Yoel looks much bigger than Luke Rockhold when he stepped in there. But that's all I'll talk about.
You know, you look at that, and Was there hesitation on your end? Because then the fight was going to, and then the UFC announced shortly thereafter you would be facing Yoel next. So was there any, it has to be natural hesitation because of what happened with the fight with Luke and missing weight. Does that creep up at all in the back of your mind? Like, what if he comes in on June 9th and the same thing happens from what we saw in February?
Then there won't be a fight.
Would you not fight if, say he comes in overweight again? Would you say absolutely not, this is not going to happen?
Why would I? I may as well fight Wadoon. I may as well fight someone heavier than me. I may as well rock up at 95 kilos. What does it matter if we're not going to make weight? If you don't make weight, there's no fight.
No, I agree with that 100%. And you look at just everything, there's a lot going on in the UFC, and you were at the big press conference on Friday, and a lot of the talk was centered around what happened, the incident on Thursday with Conor McGregor, and as one of the standard bearers in the sport, I wanted to get your thoughts on this. What did you make of that whole entire situation that unfolded on Thursday?
I think even if it wasn't Conor McGregor, if it was just Joe Blow down the street throwing stuff at a bus, the police would lock him up. And it's just, if you're a role model for athletes and for kids and for adults even, and you go around with that behaviour, you're a joke. I think it was a terrible thing to do.
If you had the boss hat on, what would you do? Because a lot of fans are like, you and I imagine you've seen a lot of this stuff on social media. He's a disgrace. Joe Rogan even said it was disgusting on the broadcast on Saturday night, and a lot of fans feel like he should no longer be allowed to fight. If you were the head of the UFC, if you were in Dana White's shoes, what would Robert Whittaker do?
I'd sue the hell out of him.
Are you turning talks about Dana White? Or are you talking about the fighters? Or are you talking about?
I'm talking about everyone. I'm trying to sue him. I wasn't even there. I think it was a very silly move, to be honest, especially when I don't know.
You talked about role models, and Charles, I don't know if you know the NBA player Charles Barkley, but he's retired. So, when he was playing basketball, he's like, I'm not a role model. Do you feel that all athletes should be role models, or do you think that's just up to the particular athlete?
I don't think it's even athletes. I think every human should try to be a role model for the next. And I think the more people that watch you, the more attention you're given, the more responsibility you have to live up to those expectations. And otherwise, like if you have people going around watching people be bad persons, be bad people, they're going to try to be bad as well. And that's just like a decline in society at that point.
What's the worst thing you ever have done?
Me? Oh, I've done terrible things as a kid.
Give me one example.
I cannot do that. I am trying to be a good role model here.
I agree with that 100%. And you look at this year, by the time you get into the ring on June 9th, it'll be right around 11 months since you became the interim middleweight champion. And what has this time just been like for you? Because you came off that high of beating Yoel, and then then the situation happened with George, and then he became the champion, vacated the title, and then you were supposed to fight. You didn't fight. Luke Rockhold ended up with the illness, and now you're making your actual first title defense. What has this almost year, been like for you by the time we get into June 9th?
It's been a great year. After I got over the sickness, I just went back into training. I've been spending time with my family. And I've been working along. Whether I'm fighting or not, I do the same stuff. I go to work every day. I train my ass off. I work with my friends and my teammates, and then I see my family and my kids because I train at home. So it's been great. Regardless of the fight, like I'm going in that fight and I'm stacking all the chips in my favour. But regardless of what happens, I'm going to leave there and I'm going to go home. I'm going to go back to training like I always have been. I'm going to spend time with my family and my kids, and I'm happy again. My life doesn't ride on this fight. And I think that's what gives me a great strength going into this fight.
A couple more questions, Robert, and thank you for the time today. It's greatly appreciated. I'll talk about George really quickly. How disappointing was that for you that he went and beat Michael, became the champion, and then he vacated the title and you didn't get that fight. 'Cause watching you in interviews, it could really tell you really wanted that fight really bad. So how disappointing was that you were not able to face George?
Yeah, I was a little disappointed. It would have been good to fight a guy on that caliber, to fight a legacy in the sport. It would have been great, but it is what it is. I didn't have a lot of hope in that he would fight me. I didn't think he would. I like George as a person and as an athlete. He's a great fighter. He's a great dude. I wish only the best for him. I'm happy he got over his sickness and he's doing well.
You look at the first fight with Yoel, and it was a very good fight. What positives do you take away from that first fight? Because you were injured in that fight, and I thought the perseverance showed a lot of your medal and your championship part that a lot of people hadn't seen before. So what positives do you take from that fight last July?
Exactly that. My perseverance. I know that I can be injured and I can be down in a fight, and I can be seriously injured and still get up and do what I need to do. But I'm under no illusion. Next fight's 50-50, like every fight after that, like every fight has been. And I'm going to go in there and just do what I do. I'm going to stack all the chips in my favour beforehand and just see what happens on the night.
Is that how you view every fight? It's just a 50-50 fight. You don't look at it just with a clean slate?
No, every fight is 50-50.
Why is that?
Because it takes one punch to finish someone. And how can you have any sort of odds if it only takes one punch to land properly?
Were you surprised Yoel was next?
Not really. He's after I saw him beat Luke, there's no one else. He's beaten everyone in the top 5, top 10. Like, really, realistically, there is just me and him.
So that was going to be my second to last question. What do you make of the overall weight class right now? Because it doesn't seem beyond Yoel. Luke's seeming like he's more leaning towards going to 205, and Bisping's right at the end of his career. What do you make of your weight division right now?
I see a lot of guys that just want to talk and jump to a title fight. Like, no one wants to fight each other, and I think that's the wrong mentality to have. Especially if you're a fighter and you're in the fight game and fighting's what you do. And fight, man.
Why do you think we've seen more of that? Because you've seen everything that's happened with Conor. You've talked, Woodley's been saying the same thing. Nate Diaz. You're seeing a lot more. Then we almost had one between Max and Khabib, but that was under a different circumstance. But what do you make of all these guys calling? Hey, I want a super fight here. I want a super fight here. I want a super fight here. They're
just trying to look out for themselves. If they don't look out for themselves, who else is going to look out for themselves? I think it's getting a bit much. I think you have to deserve a super fight, to be honest. I think you need to have a run, someone like Anderson Silva, like to truly be, or someone like GSP. Because when GSP stepped into my division and asked for the fight with Michael Bisping, it's like it stuffed the division up, yeah. But not once did I think George didn't deserve that. Like he's you've seen what he does. Everyone knows what he's done, and I think he deserved that. And I think you need to be of that sort of caliber to deserve that sort of shot. But then again, like I can't say it's wrong for the fighters out there calling for the shots, because they're just trying to make a living. They're just trying to look out for themselves, and you can't judge people on that.
Does it hurt the sport in your mind?
A little bit, because I think it mucks the rating, the rankings up a lot, and the rankings in the division is very important. I think for the health of the division itself. I think the champion has to fight the number 1 contender, and everyone else should be fighting to get into that number 1 spot. I think that's how a division and ranking should work. Not everyone calling out people and jumping up and calling out money shots and fighting people from different divisions and all that sort of stuff.
I don't know if you watch pro wrestling, but WrestleMania was last night, and Ronda Rousey ended up being the talk of the show. She put on a fantastic performance at WrestleMania. What do you make of her in WWE, and did you watch her wrestle last night?
I saw just her wrestle, and I think it's great. I think she's doing great things for herself, and she's moved on to the next chapter of her life. And her performance last night was amazing. It was great to watch. I think it was great. Like, I really do.
Pro wrestling fan?
I watched a lot of it when I was younger, and then fell out of touch. But I watched her last night.
Who was your back in the day? Who was your favorite wrestler?
Favorite wrestler back in the day, probably Sting.
Oh, you were a WCW guy. Oh, man.
NWO.
Okay. Nothing wrong with the NWO. He should have joined, though. In all honesty, he should have joined. He was better off joining the Hulkster, in my own mind. But we'll end with this. How do you defeat Yoel Romero on June 9th to retain the UFC middleweight title?
I just be me. You know, I'm a nightmare for every person in my division, and I'm going to get there better than ever. You know, the best Robert Whittaker, I think, is going to step into the octagon June 9th, and I think it's going to be a bit much for Yoel.
Robert, thank you for the time, my friend. Look forward to June 9th.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.